I, 36F, recently found out my Phil, 57M, lied about me resigning at his office and has told family members I was fired.
Long story short, I was brought into my father-in-law's company when it first started because I have a background in accounting and payroll. The short-term agreement turned into a 5-year part-time job. My husband, 35M, works for the company doing a different job and would often ask questions about money that I was not permitted to answer. It caused several arguments between us, and even though I kept my mouth shut about my Phil's financial situation, I was still blamed for stuff leaking out of the office. After some family drama unrelated to me, my father-in-law was a wreck and would come in every day complaining about his children, my husband and his 2 brothers. His horrible attitude caused so much stress for me, and I felt incredibly uncomfortable being around him. At home, my husband would talk about the same issue and I felt I couldn't escape the negativity and bad-mouthing BS. So, I gave my father-in-law my notice and told him I was going to pursue my other career full-time. He was fine with the decision and congratulated me on plans of starting my own business in the field I work and enjoy. He hired a new office assistant, I trained her, celebrated my last day 3 weeks later, gave hugs and goodbye office employment. My father-in-law called regularly to check how I was doing with the new job, and we're close, so we talk about life and other stuff, as well. The last 5 months have been so successful for me and I'm so very happy with my decision to leave. My husband and I don't argue, my Phil and I had no hard feelings or anything like that. Until a call received today. I was asked by my sister-in-law, married to my husband's brother, if it was uncomfortable being around my father-in-law now that I'm out of the office. I told her it was quite the opposite. We talk once a week or so and he's very supportive and complimentary of my success. And then she said, yeah, but he fired you. And you aren't upset? I'm really surprised your husband still works for him. It's all just really weird to me. So, I told her the whole real story and found out that he had told several people that he had to fire me because I couldn't keep my mouth shut. I am absolutely at a loss of where I go from here. I plan to call him in the morning and find out what the deal is, but I'm hurt and embarrassed that for 5 months, he's told however many people that I was fired. From knowing him pretty well, he's going to deny he said it, but I confirmed with other family members tonight that they had heard the same story my Sil had. And what do I even say? I don't want to run any relationships, but if I don't say anything, it will forever weigh on me. Why would he make up this lie? My husband knows the truth and said he's calling him and dealing with it. I told him it's my responsibility and I need to talk to him myself. I just don't know how to even begin the conversation where it doesn't sound like a he said / she said, pointing fingers of blame kind of thing. TL, doctor, quit working for my Phil because of constant, uncomfortable negativity, and he has told several family members he had to fire me because I spread his secrets.
Your husband should find another job too. Phil sounds like a controlling and manipulative person.
Wow, your father-in-law is a snake. Set aside the personal relationship for a moment. On a professional level, this is the kind of thing you can sue over. A former employer is lying about your performance and how you left the company. I'm not saying you should sue, but this is more than a family spat. This kind of behavior opens him up to some serious liability. If he has an HR person, they'd be sweating over this. Also, stop being friends with him. He'll use anything you say to him against you and your loved ones if it suits him.
Say something like, before you even try to deny this, I have confirmed with multiple people that you've told them that you fired me for not keeping my mouth shut. I want an explanation. Not only is it blatantly untrue, but if people at my current workplace heard that, it could potentially cost me my job. Please explain. If he tries to deny it, interrupt him with stop. Don't try to pretend this is some sort of conspiracy where everyone is out to make you look bad. Just explain to me why you did it. If you can't be honest, I will just hang up.
Did you resign in writing? If so, post a copy of it in a family group chat, captioned. Guys, there appears to be some confusion about my resigning XXXX company. Just to be clear, I resigned of my own volition, on what I believed were good terms. I even stayed long enough to train my replacement. I was not fired as some of you appear to think.
I suspect that your Phil thinks he isn't lying much. You gave a polite excuse for leaving the company, but he could probably see that it was related to the drama. Since he never believed that you didn't leak information, that's an easy thing for him to blame it on. He knows that he didn't actually fire you, but he can spin it to himself as, she took the hint about leaking information and quit. So he can keep being the guy who is always right. If you are going to confront him, you should probably be prepared for him to just straight up not believe you.
My first instinct would be who cares what he's telling people, I know the truth. But when it's a family member bad-mouthing and spreading BS, you gotta call him out. Privately. One-to-one. I'd pay him a visit and calmly say something like, "Hey Phil, it's got back to me from a good few people that I was fired for not being able to keep my mouth shut. We both know that isn't the case, so if you could clarify the situation with these people please, because it's damaging my reputation and potentially my business too. Thank you." Doesn't need to be a confrontation or hostile. But he needs to know the potential knock-on effect could disrupt his son's life too.
It's a family business, so why wouldn't the son be allowed to see the financials? Your Phil sounds like an incredibly selfish person. You were blamed for leaking stuff in the office while he could have shut that down. He complained about his kids to you still, which is so inappropriate. And then the lie. He doesn't actually care about you. He cares about himself and how he appears to others. That's sad, but it's obvious. Do not take it personally. He lacks the capacity for love. He isn't a safe person. Formulate strong boundaries with this man. I'd start off by going to lunch and saying, "I am aware that you lied about me. I cannot comprehend why and I don't even care. But moving forward, unless you are willing to accept responsibility and show remorse, I am cutting contact."
Creepy neighbor, 50 SM, making me feel unsafe in my 32F home. Just to clarify, I am the sister of the owner of this Reddit account as I don't have my own. Back in October, my boyfriend and I broke up and he moved out. It's a small rented terraced house in a little town in England. I wanted to stay because I love the house and the neighbors are generally lovely. Except for one who we'll call Rob. Rob lives with his wife Laura, who I've always got on well with, in the house directly opposite mine. It started while my ex-boyfriend was still living with me and he kept asking me why I had my blinds closed a lot of the time. He hinted he would prefer me to keep them open. This was all while my ex was at work. One time, he was chatting to me outside and my ex came over to ask me something and Rob snapped at him saying, "Excuse me, I'm talking to my name." Which I thought was quite strange. Another time he exited his house at the same time as me when I was on my way to work. He insisted on walking me to the train station. I worked in a bar at the time. He also got on the train with me all the way to the town I worked in, came into my work, sat at the bar and had a drink, and then left and went back home. I haven't had much more interaction with him since then, just the occasional typical neighbor chat. I had COVID a few months ago and I was pretty much in bed for a week. A package was delivered to his house as I was isolating and couldn't get to the door. Laura texted me and said Rob would bring the package round, so I replied saying that I had COVID and it would be better if he just left it outside my door, which he did. This is important for later. Everything had been fine until last Sunday night. It was around midnight and I was still up watching TV in my living room. There was a knock at the door. I opened it and it was Rob. He was drunk and barged into my house saying he had come to check on me. I later found out that he was at a party at another neighbor's house and had snuck out to come knock on my door. I was quite forthright and said, "Rob, what are you doing? Get out." He ignored me and announced that he wanted to make sure I was okay and said, "Don't worry, it's nothing sexual," which creeped me out even more. He said he was worried about me and then said you didn't really have COVID, did you? Did you lie about having COVID? At first I had no idea why he would ask that question, but looking back now, I think he could only have been referring to what I mentioned earlier. I assume he was annoyed that I had asked for the package to be left outside and thought I lied about having COVID so I didn't have to open my door to him. The rest is all a bit of a blur as I was terrified. It's worth mentioning that my front door is the only way in and out of my house. I don't have a back door, so once he was inside my house blocking the doorway I felt completely trapped and had nowhere to run. I can't remember much more of what was said, but it took me a while to get him to leave. I asked him several times. I was left very shaken and have felt nervous ever since. The next morning I received a text from Laura that said we hadn't realized Rob left the party to come and check on you last night. When his depression is bad he likes to check on everyone because he worries about people. Sorry if he scared you, I know he can be a bit forward but he's harmless. Rob and I will pop round tomorrow to apologize in person. I replied saying okay, thanks. I was shaken up and didn't really know what else to say. I did consider telling Laura what actually happened, but I knew she would tell Rob and I didn't want to anger him. Also, it's unlikely Laura would side with me and she may think I'm lying. Over the next few days, Laura texted me a few times and each time it was to say that he wasn't going to be able to apologize that day for various reasons. Rob was sick, etc. etc. Eventually she said Rob needed a few more days and I hadn't heard from her since. I figured Rob changed his mind or whatever, but I'm not chasing them for an apology, so I just left it. This morning I walked the half-mile to my local shop. When I got there, Laura was pulling up into the car park. She rolled her window down, looked at me with a sad, pitiful face and said, "Are you okay?" I said no, not really, and walked off. I felt annoyed that this promised apology never happened and I'm angry that I have been made to feel scared and unsafe in my own house. After I got back from the shop, there was a loud knock at the door. I peeked through the blind and it was Rob. Alone. I felt sick to my stomach and started shaking. There was no way I was opening the door to him again. He knocked again, louder and quicker. They sounded like angry knocks, and eventually he left. I have told my other neighbor, Dave, about what happened and he was very supportive and said he will keep his phone on loud in case I ever need to call or text him to come round. He also said that even if he is at his girlfriend's house, which is a 5 or 10 minute drive away, he will happily leave if I need him to. This has obviously made me feel a lot better. My sister and her fiancé also know, but they are almost an hour away, and another 2 male friends who live nearby also know. Dave does work though, so he is out most of the day, whereas I am working from home and in my house all day. He also mentioned that he has never liked Rob and he'd happily go round and speak to him. Knowing Dave, this would not be a polite conversation, it would likely be a very aggressive demand that he leave me alone. I have declined this offer as I don't want to exacerbate the situation. I am gobsmacked that both Rob and Laura thought it was appropriate for Rob to come to my house alone again and knock angrily on my door. I just want him to leave me alone. I considered texting Laura and basically saying please tell Rob to not come to my house under any circumstances. I am a woman living alone and what happened the other night made me extremely uncomfortable. I do not need an apology, I just want Rob to please leave me alone. I also considered even saying that if he comes to my house again then I will call the police. The problem with this is that Rob is quite an angry person and I am inclined to think that this would make him more likely to come knocking on my door. If I call the police and they go round and give him a warning, what happens after they've gone? What happens if Laura is out and Dave is at work and I'm alone in my house and he knows no one could get here quick enough? Any advice on how to deal with this situation would be much appreciated. TL Dr. Neighbor is harassing me and I don't know how to deal with him.
I considered texting Laura and basically saying please tell Rob to not come to my house under any circumstances. I am a woman living alone, and what happened the other night made me extremely uncomfortable. I do not need an apology, I just want Rob to please leave me alone. Yes. Do this. Skip the "I am a woman living alone" line. No need to emphasize that. Whenever it is safe to do so, stop being nice. Don't chat with him. If another package goes to their house, ask the wife to drop it off. Get a security camera. Never, ever answer the door when he's standing outside. If he insists on walking you to the train, you insist that he not walk you to the train. If he follows you, walk to the closest police station or police officer. Remember, you are under absolutely zero obligation to be polite to him. Just tell him no. Whenever you need to. Don't soften it with "I'd prefer that you don't walk me to the train." Instead try "No. I am going to walk alone." "No, you can't walk with me." If either he or his wife tell you that they are worried about you, tell them they have no right to worry about you. In a situation like this, it's really okay to drop the British politeness and just tell them flat out to leave you alone. Always trust your gut. And in a worst case scenario, don't hesitate to scream your bloody head off to attract attention.
This is so awful. I wish it weren't happening to you. I think if it were me, my next step would be to make the boundary really clear and explicit by texting both of them at the same time and saying "Please leave me alone and do not come to my door or attempt to enter my home again for any reason." Then go ahead and block Rob's number. If Laura reaches out by text or in person, just restate exactly that. "Please leave me alone. I'm not available for conversation. It would be best if you left me alone." Don't try to go backwards or extract an apology. It's not worth it. You want them to ignore you forever, so say that and then don't give it any energy at all. No conversations, no answering the knocks, call Dave if he shows up again. Ugh. I don't know anything about the law where you are, so I'll trust that you can access the police if you feel you need to. Anyway, if you want a good resource, the book The Gift of Fear by Gavin de Becker is recommended a lot. You can skip irrelevant chapters and it's a quick read. The main message for women is this: if you have a bad feeling about someone, listen to it. Your gut feeling is designed to protect you. And then it gives tips on how to deal with it. Good luck. You shouldn't have to deal with this.
I think Rob's wife knows he has fucked up and is trying to gauge how angry you are and how much trouble he is in. I think you need to make it clear to both of them that they are not to come to your house at all. If Rob comes over, call the police immediately and don't answer the door. Consider going to the police to make a report of what happened with Rob and show them the text messages his wife has sent to you. I second the poster who says to get security camera in the house.
Please read The Gift of Fear by Gavin de Becker. He is a danger to you and his wife is an enabler. It's obvious that he has had issues with this behavior in the past. It would be a good idea to drop into your local police station and ask to file a report about the incident. Chances are they're already aware of Rob. It's also possible that he could be on some kind of supervised release or probation for prior similar offenses. The suggestion of security cameras is excellent. You can get ones that you can install yourself with no hard wiring needed. Inform Laura and Rob by text that you have the cameras and that due to Rob's inappropriate past conduct, any future incidents of any kind will be shared with the police.
You need to start working on preventing another encounter, not treating it. Having people come around when he's actively bothering you won't help a ton. Send the text to Laura or even better to Rob directly. Ask Dave to tell him to back off, and stop being friendly to him. You don't owe him anything.
Something similar happened to me, only the Rob in my story was my brother-in-law. He snuck into my house while I was home alone. I was topless because I had just come in the house from sunbathing in my backyard. He snuck in and stood in the middle of my home. I was so scared. I managed to get him out of my house, and do you know what that creep did? He came back, twice within a few minutes. The second and third time he came back, he walked into my backyard where I was on the phone with my sister, extremely shaken up. It wasn't until I yelled at him to get the fuck out of my backyard and that I would call the cops if he didn't leave did he actually leave. You need to be firm with this man, otherwise he's going to continue to try to push boundaries. Also, file a police report. I did because I wanted to document what happened, in the event something happened again in the future. Be firm, stand your ground, and set clear boundaries with this creep. You need to protect yourself.
I haven't seen this mentioned yet, so I hope it gets noticed. Talk to your landlord about getting a chain lock for your door in addition to a camera. It'll add another layer of protection for you. I, 20F, think my boyfriend, 21M, is stealing things out of my bag. Edit. Thank you so much for all the advice. I'm super grateful as it helps me work things out. I just want to be clear on one thing. I have no proof he's stealing from my bag, only my gut instinct, and he's not controlling in any other part of the relationship, just loving and kind, which is why I'm so confused. Okay, so I'm sorry if this is long and there is a chance this is all in my head, but I think I have an issue with my boyfriend of 2 years. I'm young and uni, so me and my friends like to go out on girly nights and have fun, as friends do. Typically we all like to get ready to go out together, kind of like pre-drinks where everyone does their hair and makeup and chats about the night ahead, standard stuff. My boyfriend is more reserved than I am and isn't really a clubbing or house party kind of guy, so whenever we get ready we do it at my friend's flat across town so that we don't get in the way of whatever he wants to do and he doesn't feel overcrowded with like 6 or 8 girls running around our flat. Here's where the problem comes in. Whenever I get to my friends with my bag and we start to get ready, there is always, and I mean always, something missing from my bag. An eyeliner here, an ID there, etc. The weirdest one was when I got to my friend's house and I only had one of my shoes in the bag, despite the fact I'm sure I packed them both. This inevitably leads to me having to go back to my boyfriend's to get whatever has been left behind, and when I get there he always studies my outfit and sometimes makes me put on a jacket, or change into another outfit completely. In short, I think my boyfriend is stealing things out of my bag so that I have to go back to ours and he can check/approve of my outfit. Don't get me wrong, I know he's only being protective and looking out for me because he's jealous of what other guys might do or think based on what I'm wearing, but I feel suffocated. I hate the fact he's not even approaching it with me directly, instead he's sneaking around and stealing things out of my bag. It sounds so small but it's getting ridiculous. I don't know if it's all in my head or what to do anymore. DL. Doctor, whenever I go to my friends to get ready there is something missing from my bag, so I have to go back to get it where my boyfriend inspects my outfits.
This is not okay. He's not being protective of you. He is being controlling. The fact that you can't see it for what it is makes me wonder if he's low-key been undermining you throughout the entire relationship and feels comfortable enough to escalate because you haven't called him on his shit and told him that he isn't treating you like your own person.
He's not being protective. He's being controlling. His behavior is just going to get worse as time goes on.
Don't get me wrong, I know he's only being protective and looking out for me because he's jealous of what other guys might do or think based on what I'm wearing, but I feel suffocated. He's being a control creep and underhanded about it, so no wonder you feel suffocated. This isn't loving behavior.
This is not okay. This is super controlling and abusive. You need to get far away from him immediately.
My crazy ex used to criticize everything I wore when going out, so over time I changed the way I dressed. Then it started being argumentative debates about why he couldn't go with me on girls' nights out. The clue is in the name, girls' night out, until I'd get so frustrated being talked around in circles over and over that most of the time I wouldn't go. Then it turned into full-blown vicious nitpicking fights that wouldn't stop until he made me cry. At which point I couldn't go anywhere because my eyes were red and swollen, my makeup wrecked, and I was an all-around mess. I stopped doing anything that wasn't work or spending time with him, and he loved it like that. Your BF is being manipulative, controlling and gaslighting you. How many times have you questioned yourself and wondered if you were losing your marbles when things you need put in your bag weren't there? There is no talking this out. There is no loving him into being better. There is only gradual escalation and isolation. Get out. Now.
This is not a small thing. This is really disturbing. It's controlling, it's unhealthy, and it's totally not a normal thing to do. It's also disturbing he can't just talk to you about his concerns or whatever. Is he controlling in other ways?
He is not only being protective and looking out for you. Don't lie to yourself like that. He is being manipulative and controlling. This behavior is extremely disturbing and there is no happy future for you in this relationship.
I would pack a bag and pretend I'm going out for a night. But just be going over to hang out with my friends. See if he questions why you have not come back home. And if he is acting suspicious the next time you see him. Either way you should break.
Thank you for watching. Please, like and subscribe.